Hello there and welcome to this overview video for the newly released FIA European Truck Racing Championship game. Of course it is the officially licensed game of the ETRC, which features no less than 8 rounds across Europe as drivers compete in trucks from manufacturers such as Iveco, Mercedes-Benz, MAN and Freightliner. The game is available right now across the PlayStation 4, Xbox One and PC platforms, and the Nintendo Switch version will follow shortly on August 5th. The game is developed by N Racing and utilises the KT engine, which has been used to create recent racing titles including TT Isle of Man Ride on the Edge, B-Rally 4 and of course WRC 7. Needless to say, truck racing games are few and far between, particularly on the consoles, so we're more than a little excited to dive in here as we check out the various modes on offer, as well as some gameplay and our first thoughts on the title. Okay, so here we are kicking off with some gameplay here at the Nürburgring in a 3-lap race, starting from towards the back of the pack here. 12 runners in total and up into 9th place. There's always that bit of trepidation when you approach this really tight turn, this tight right-hander here. You want to get on the brakes quite early. You've got to keep out of trouble as much as possible, so I'm hanging it out on the outside here, but inevitably there's going to be contact. These are big 5-ton plus trucks. They're very wide, of course, you know, 2 or 3 trucks wide doesn't always go, and obviously you're going to get some contact, so it's best just to be a little bit tentative at the start until the field stretches out. Again, a very tight turn this. Very difficult, very different experience with trucks. I'm used to the Nürburgring track, but not in trucks. You can see me sliding wide there, so they do get lively if you take liberties with these trucks, as we make a couple of overtakes there up into 6th place. Again, heavy on the brakes through here, squirting some water on my brakes. You can hear that sound, and have a little overtake here on the inside. So we've done well. This is on the medium setting, I must add. The hardest setting, hard, is pretty difficult. It certainly would not be a setting I would recommend straight away. I would say start with medium if you're experienced, and then eventually work your way up to the hard setting, because it is pretty tough. And closing in on this 3rd place truck in front. You can see the 1st place truck is quite a distance away, so it's going to be a challenge to catch. Topping out in 8th gear there, you can see on the bottom right, 160 kilometers per hour, which is about 100 miles per hour as we go heavy into this braking zone. You can see the bollard there being hit by the truck in front. You've got to avoid them at all costs. Of course, 3 of those, and it is a drive-through penalty, which is particularly punishing in a small race such as this. Even on the full-length races, you're looking at about 11-12 laps, so even a drive-through penalty at that distance is still very punishing, of course. So we're up into 2nd place anyway of 12 runners, and you can see I've got a way to go till I catch the guy in front. So having a little look here, I was going to go for it there, but I decided against it. Sometimes it's best just to bide your time, wait for an obvious opening, because you don't want to make contact, because too much contact and you will incur time penalties. So it's all about making overtakes. Got to go for it when there's a gap, but at the same time you don't want to be too aggressive at the point where you're making contact, particularly if you're in a long distance race. You want to keep that contact down to a minimum here as we go across. Having to put the brakes on there to avoid contact with the truck in front. And you can see there, just sort of stretching his legs now, getting back a bit of a lead. Goes very wide there on the exit, gives me an opportunity on the inside, just squeezing through there between the barrier and the truck. Almost making contact, but just about getting away with it to secure 1st place as we finish the lap 2 of 3. You can see the truck behind still close, so I've got to make sure I get this turn right. So changing down into 7th, spraying the water, going down to 6th as well. So you want to change up about 70 or so miles per hour into 7th. Gives you a nice sort of drive on the exit as I slowly but surely widen the lead at the front there. So it's so interesting racing trucks. I'm used to racing cars, but I can't say I'm used to racing trucks, so it's very novel to get on this game and really sort of get to grips with these big 5-ton beasts. Of course, you're much higher up in the cabin than you would be in the car, so it does feel a little slower, but when you account for the weight and how lively these trucks can actually be, it more than makes up for that. It does still have that excitement, that intensity to the action, although it may not look as dramatic when you're actually driving, particularly with a racing wheel. It certainly is entertaining. You certainly will have fun with it, drifting around the turns, keeping your brake temperatures in check, making sure you get those optimum gear changes. So there we go, crossing the line in first place. So let's check out what the game has to offer. So the main meet in FIA European Truck Racing Championship, of course, resides within its career mode. Once you've created your driver, you'll be taken to the main screen. Here you'll notice there are actually two categories. We've got the European Truck Racing Championship, or the ETRC, and there is the World Series. The World Series career features 6 tracks, separate from the ETRC tracks. However, both of these careers are currently locked, so you will have to pass mandatory license tests before you get stuck into either the ETRC or the World Series. So 15 license tests in total. Although you will need to progress through all 15, I can assure you it's not overly difficult, so even less experienced players should be able to progress without too many problems. Experienced players, on the other hand, will be able to gold most of these license tests first time around. The license tests take you through the basics of truck racing, so you'll start off very simply weaving between obstacles and simple accelerating and stopping tests, which you'll be familiar with if you've played Gran Turismo. Then there's the dreaded slalom test, which is a bit of a handful. I must admit I did fail this a number of times before getting a pass. Several tests in, you will be introduced to the basics of water cooling. So you have a limited water reservoir, and the idea is to keep your brake temperatures within a certain threshold in order to keep them working at optimal levels. The idea is to keep your brakes under 500 degrees Celsius, so if the temperatures do creep up to around 500, then you simply press the water button and that will immediately cool the brakes. Once you've completed that, there is another temperature test which tasks you to keep your brake temperatures between 250 to 500 degrees Celsius. Now in this test you can actually fail it for having your brakes too cold, so you will need to keep it between the recommended temperatures. The very last license test gives you a full lap of Zolder with those 3 target times to beat. So it's all about putting together everything you've learned from the previous tests and putting in one solid lap. Once you've completed all 15 license tests, you then are given the opportunity to start your career. Okay, so we're just going to run through all the tracks included in the ETRC and World Series careers. So ETRC, we have the Misano World Circuit, the Hungary Speedway, the Slovakia Ring, the Nürburgring, Autodrom Most, Circuit Zolder, Le Mans, and the Circuito del Jarama. And for the World Series we have Laguna Seca, Autodroma de Buenos Aires, the Fuji Speedway, the Circuit of the Americas, Winton Motor Raceway, and finally the Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Once you've decided on whether you want to do an ETRC or World Series career, you can then tailor it to your needs. So here you can see you can opt to have opponents on track during practice and qualifying sessions or not, along with the race length and AI difficulty. A race length of 100% equates to roughly about 11 or 12 laps, so not massively long. I think the sweet spot for most players though will be about 50%. AI difficulty, I would recommend intermediate to get some experience before actually tackling the hard difficulty. And of course there are the assists to consider, whether you want damage overheating brakes or driving line on or off, as well as some clutch and transmission settings. Here is the main career mode dashboard. The calendar of course allows you to see all the upcoming events, which includes proper race weekends as well as the one-off practice sessions. Now it's worth taking part in these one-off practice sessions because often they'll introduce you to a track that you will race at later in the year, so it's certainly worth diving in. The stats page allows you to view your career stats so far. The garage portion of the dashboard enables you to repair and upgrade your truck's parts. At the moment this section is locked out and only unlocks once you have secured a long contract. And of course there is an option to cancel your contract at any time as well. And of course the standings allow you to see how you stack up against your rivals across the whole season. So before you go racing you will need to sign a contract. Early contracts just last for a race weekend, and of course you can see there the reputation and profit you can earn with the contract. Once you earn more reputation points, more contracts will naturally become available to you. A full race weekend consists of a practice session, a qualifying session, and then 2 races which take part on a Saturday. And then on the Sunday the same again, another practice session, another qualifying session, and those 2 races. Before taking to the track you can make changes to your trucks. You can see here a range of settings for brake bias, suspension, damper and more. You can actually tell the game if you want a setup that improves cornering, stability or more of a balance in between the two. And of course you can have your own custom setting as well. You can tinker with all the various sliders here to your heart's content. Okay, so with that said we're going to be diving into a career race here with some live commentary. Okay, so here we are at the Hungary track, which I don't know, so I'm going to be learning as I go here in a full 100% race distance race. So it's 11 laps at this track. Away we go. So it's all about being pretty careful early on. You want to keep up the pace, but at the same time you don't want to make contact. Heavy on the brakes then. It's all about utilising those gears as well as possible. There are 4 gears in total, 2 low gears and 2 high. 5 and 6 are the low, 7 and 8 are your high gears, and you want it to be really most of the time you're in 7th gear, so you only need to use 5th if you're really sort of crawling along. 6th gear for the very tight turns. You'll be in 7th for the majority, and 8 is needed to get to your top speed of 160 kilometers or about 100 miles per hour. So there may not be the quickest in terms of top speed, but even so they certainly are lively at the rear and a real sort of handful to drive fast, so they're anything but boring to drive despite their weight and their apparent lack of top speed. So plenty of smoke kicked up on the trucks in front as we brake hard, dropping down to 6 for this tight turn. Wow, massive moment there. Dropping down to 5 now as we regain some speed, but wow, major incident there. One of the turns you can see the cracks on the windscreen, and in fact I've broke my wing mirror as well, which doesn't help matters, but these are the things you're going to have to contend with in the career mode. Incidents do and will happen. It's all about composing yourself, making the best of the situation. Wow, so getting sideways there, so this can be lively beasts. I've got to recompose myself now. I do not know this track at all, so I'm very much using the trucks in front as a learning aid. So tapping the water button there to keep the brakes cool. You can see the brake temperatures on the left dial there. Getting a massive braking zone, so squirt of water each time. You don't have to squirt water all the time, but after any heavy braking zones it's a good idea just to give the water button a little tap. Of course you don't want to hit it too often because you do have a limited reserve. So coming to finish the first lap, quite a bit of drama early on. Looking forward to seeing what the rest of this race has in store. Okay, so we're closing in on the truck in front then. Going to try and line up an overtake for any sort of opportunity that I can seize upon. So again, just giving the brakes a very gentle squeeze.
Keep your brakes cool. Remember to spray
Little
water on
squirt
them.
of water. It's how tight this turn is, goodness me.
Focus on overtaking the next driver.
Making the overtake there just about, so up into 7th place of 12 runners, and we're on lap 2 of 11. Tight chicane this, very satisfying when you do get it right. I get a little bit too much of the beans through there. You can see again the rear end stepping out, and these trucks certainly do take some getting used to, as I drift it round that turn like a pro. The game does give you a good sense of weight to the trucks, which is essential in the truck racing game. You really do have to feel the weight of these trucks for it to be authentic, and you do get a nice sense of weight through the steering wheel if you're using a racing wheel. And it's backed up by a nice audio package that gives a sort of authentic feel. You've got multiple layers of audio. You can hear the brakes, you can hear the water squirting on the brakes, you can also hear the engine, and it does enough to give you good representation of what it'd be like to drive these trucks for real. So when you couple the physics and the audio package together, it does make for an impressive package in total. And when you consider it's come from a developer that we haven't heard of previously, they've done a pretty fine job. Hopefully this will become, with any luck, a franchise. You can see improvements as time goes on. We're certainly off to a very good start here though, and it's just so nice to have a truck racing game back on the consoles. It's been far too long. The last game I remember, probably PlayStation 2 era days, so a long time ago. So it's nice to get on here and have an authentic racing simulation with trucks, because these games are typically reserved for the PC market, so leaving console owners out in the cold. But it's nice to have something here you can get your teeth stuck into. Just a completely different discipline, completely different feeling of racing. Just something fresh, something new, something interesting, which is always nice to see in the racing genre. Okay, we've got this really tight turn again now. Goodness me, it's really hanging onto the steering wheel through there. Again through here, can be tricky. You don't want to hit those bollards. If you hit 3 of those,
Keep your brakes cool. Remember to spray water on them.
you will have a drive-through penalty, and should you hit a 4th, it's, you guessed it, another drive-through penalty. Goodness me, the trucks are so... the lack of grip through that section there is incredible. You think that you've got a big 5.3 ton truck, it's going to be just sticking to the road, but no, it doesn't. You've got this very off-camber turn here, very difficult, very easy to get wrong. And looks like we're going to get the overtake done here actually, so we're up into 6th place on lap 4 of 11. Okay, so we're about half distance or so, and you can see the brakes 74% at the front and 73% on the rear, so they will naturally deteriorate, of course. It's all about trying to keep them as good a shape as possible by spraying water on them when they do get above 500 degrees Celsius. We're sort of stuck in the midfield here in this race, so I don't think I'll be making any more moves for overtakes, but it's been a nice learning experience, and certainly will be doing things slightly different next time I do race. It's all about having a few races at the start of the career, seeing what it's all about, and then making those changes. I think gear changes are particularly crucial. You have to learn when best to change up and down, which gears to utilise. Do we go down to 6th gear? Can we leave it in 7th through some of the tighter turns? These are the questions that will be asked, and of course that only comes with experience. But early on, I would say you really need to make a break for it early on, trying to get as many positions as possible, because the guys at the front really do lay the hammer down. So it's all about trying to keep up with that front pack. The handling of the trucks does feel very intuitive. You can feel the truck as it begins to slide, so you can make your corrections, your opposite lock if need be. So it does have that nice intuitive handling feel to the trucks. That's not to say they're easy to drive, because they are a handful, but at least you get to know what's going on with all the wheels.
Keep your brakes cool. Remember
That
to
sort of
spray
weight
water
transfer, you can feel everything through the steering wheel. So it's very well done. And it's a lot of fun driving something that's so big, you know, it just makes such a change. You play as many racing games as I do, it's always nice to have something unique. I feel that's where this game comes in, sort of a breath of fresh air. But it is a game that you will need to spend some time with to get the most out of. So in that respect, there should be a decent longevity to the game. Because it's not a game really that you can dive into on the hard mode. You really need to start on medium, learn the truck, learn the various techniques, learn all about the rules. And then once you're competent and you've completed a season or two, or maybe more, then you can move up to hard to really sort of get the most, squeeze the most life out of this game as possible. Okay, so we're coming around the last few turns here. My brakes are down to about half, but I've done a reasonable job at keeping them cool. So anyway, you've listened to my initial impressions and sort of general ramblings on this game so far, as we come across the line for the very last time to complete the race. Okay, so a quick look at a podium scene. In fact, there are actually two podiums, the second being the Grammar Cup, which is reserved for the more rookie drivers. Okay, so here I've just skipped through the remaining races at Misano just to give you a look at the dashboard. Once you do complete the races, you can see there current team morale, along with your accrued points and credits, and also the reputation earned. As mentioned earlier, the more reputation you have will increase your chances of getting better contracts. Next, you'll be taken to your team finance screen. Here you can see your total earnings, along with any money spent on repairs and upgrades, as well as your current balance and general team expenses. So a quick look at the World Series career. The World Series is slightly shorter than the ETRC career. The ETRC of course has those 8 rounds, whereas the World Series has just 6. It also follows the ETRC format, giving you access to practice sessions as well as the full race weekends. So just a quick rundown of all the drivers, teams, and of course the trucks. And a quick look here at the World Series selection. You can see there much different trucks, more varied styles. So outside of the career mode, you do of course have a quick race option, which enables you to select any truck and go to any track you wish. There's also a championship mode, which enables you to create your custom championships. Championships can consist of as many as 8 rounds, and you can select from the ETRC and the World Series tracks. There's also a weekly event, which at the time of recording was actually locked out, so couldn't have a look at the options there. And besides that, we also have a time trial mode, which of course you can dive into to really get those lap times down. Multiplayer options, then we have the split screen local multiplayer, along with the quick race mode. You can also search for lobbies and of course create your own lobby if you wish. When creating your own lobby, you can select which series you want to race and whether it is a public or private lobby. You can also select between a quick race or a race weekend, and as the host you can of course tinker with a number of settings, including whether you have overheating brakes, whether the speed limiter is enforced, as well as all the various penalties there. You can see collision, speeding, corner cutting, penalty marker, and leaving track penalties. There's also an extras tab which enables you to access the options, credits, your stats, and the showroom, which we'll just take a look at very quickly. And you can admire your favourite trucks by changing the views, switching up the cameras, zooming in and out, as well as changing the background. Okay, I just wanted to show off the various options available as well. So you can opt to have overheating brakes and damage on or off, as well as the driving line, the basic transmission and clutch options there, as well as the general difficulty. So you've got your HUD options here. You can have the speedometer in kilometers or miles per hour, temperatures in Fahrenheit or Celsius, as well as simplified gears, which replaces the low and high gears with gears 1, 2, 3 and 4, just to keep things more simple. In terms of steering wheel options, here we have various sliders here to change the throttle, brake and clutch, as well as steering settings. So plenty there to tinker with should you be using a racing wheel. And also the vibration and feedback options are pretty comprehensive there, as you can see. There's also a handy option to reset your career data as well, should you wish. Okay, so we've just about taken a look at all the game modes in FIA European Truck Racing Championship. Before we head on to our ending race, I just wanted to showcase the viewpoints on offer, as well as the various weather conditions as well. Okay, so here's just a quick look at the various weather options. We have the clear sky on the left, we have the sunset in the middle, and wet on the right. So we will actually be featuring a race which showcases the very dark conditions. So I guess it all depends on which track you go to as to what extent each weather system will look like. You get a good idea here of the different weather conditions on offer. Okay, so just a quick look here at the views on offer. So you have the standard interior camera. We have the interior camera with the helmet. There's also the interior camera minus the steering wheel, which is good for racing wheel owners, as well as the first chase cam, a second higher chase cam. We have the bonnet or hood cam, and finally the bumper cam. So with that, we're going to be rounding out this overview video with a race. Okay, so here we are at Misano, very dark and overcast Misano. You can see just how different the game looks with these low lighting conditions. So we're starting around 10th place of 12 runners. We're here for a quick 3-lap race. So have a little look on the outside, sort of closing the door on me there, so having to yield. And although you want to make up as many positions early on as you possibly can, particularly in the shorter race as this, it also pays to sort of keep out of trouble as well, because you don't want to incur any time penalties, particularly in these short races, because it will ruin your race, no doubt. So you see me here just hanging on the outside, sort of biding my time, waiting for an opportunity. So look here on the inside, just staying well on the inside of that track, unfortunately hitting the bollard there, or the penalty markers they call it. 3 of those, of course, this is drive through, as we mentioned previously, so it is a case of trying to get away with what you can get away with. A couple of overtakes here as well. I do tend to run wide here. It is a very tricky turn when you've got to get these 5-ton trucks around tight turns. It's always going to be tricky, particularly when racing alongside an opponent. So it is a completely different discipline to what I'm used to, which added a nice element of uniqueness to it as we make another overtake. They're up into 6th place now and looking for yet another overtake. So this is on the medium setting, as you may have already realised. I'm not quite brave enough yet to attempt the hard difficulty, because I'm still learning the game, still learning how best to attack the courses, and of course those all important gears as well. And so there we go, making the pass, narrowly avoiding contact there. Goodness me, that was close. But we're coming up to the end of the first lap of 3. You can see just how dark it is, the track lit by the floodlights there. Looking for a overtake on the inside, nice and clean. And chasing down that 2nd place truck on the 2nd lap of 3. Changing up into 8th gear. Tricky turn this, you're having to brake while turning. Running slightly wide there, but that's okay. It gives us a good run on the exit to make the overtake up into 2nd place. So the lead truck driver, as you can see, is quite a bit in the distance. So it will take some clean driving to really catch him if possible. You can see just how misty it is in the distance. Again, topping out at that 160 km/h limiter. So we're closing down on lead truck here, quicker than I imagined. So hopefully we're looking to make the overtake before the checkered flag. So you've got to be consistent if you want to make up time, which is easier said than done. It is a game that will punish you for any mistakes made. So it really is about minimising the mistakes and really getting the most out of the trucks, keeping that momentum up, keeping them wheels spinning. So again, we're topping out to 160 any second here. Got this massive braking zone. Let's see if we can close up the gap here. Wide line from the AI. Gives me a good drive on the exit here to look for the pass. Always closing the door a little there. I'm still hanging it out on the outside. Going to yield though because he has the inside line, of course. So I'm just going to take it easy through here. We'll get to another opportunity. In fact, we're going to go for it just now on the outside. So there you go. He opened the door for me, and I said thank you very much as we take the lead. And enjoy my time so far with FIA European Truck Racing Championship. Do let us know in the comments if you are playing the game, what you make of it. Do tell us what you like about the game, what you feel may need improving, because the developers will read every comment. So just a few turns to go, and that'll bring our overview video to an end. Do hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and of course do hit the subscribe button to keep up to date with all the latest racing game goodness. But anyway, that was it for our overview of FIA European Truck Racing Championship, and we'll have more racing action on the channel coming shortly. Thanks for watching.
Hello beautiful, thanks for watching the video today. Hope you enjoyed it. Do like and subscribe, supports what we do, and also check in the description if you want to become a YouTube member or Patreon. Support us in every way possible to get out there and get some awesome content. But that's it. Hope you've enjoyed it. Check out these videos, check out the site, and there'll be more from me very soon.